Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we will be going through the 2009 movie, A Prophet. It's time to recall, let's get started, turn on subtitles, and spoilers ahead. The movie begins with a teenager named Malik having been sentenced to 6 years in prison. He has spent time before in a juvenile detention center. His government-assigned lawyer informs him that he will be going to a real prison now as he is a man. He also makes Malik sign a legal aid form. Afterwards, we see Malik being transferred to the prison in a van. He folds up a note really small and hides it in the sole of his shoe, hoping no one will find it there. He watches the city go by, boys of his age hanging out in the park while he is going to be locked up for a long time. Upon arriving in the prison, he is stripped down and given a thorough inspection. The money he had hidden in his shoe is found, and the guard keeps it away to be given to him whenever he will be released. The guard also notices how worn out his shoes are and throws them away, telling him that he will be issued a new pair. After that, Malik is taken to meet the director, who asks him some preliminary questions. There we find out that Malik has no real training or education and that he is here because he attacked cops. Malik denies this. The director asks him if he has any previous vocational skills, and Malik says no. He then asks Malik if he would like to work, and Malik agrees. The next scene shows us Malik working in a workshop where the prisoners sew jeans on sewing machines. It is Malik's first time using a sewing machine, and he asks the man in charge for instructions. Later, Malik is smoking a cigarette in the yard when two guys come up to him asking him if he brought anything from outside, like money or hash. Malik tells them no, and the guys then forcefully take his shoes. Angry and humiliated, Malik retaliates by attacking them but gets beaten up. We then see a man named Cesar. He and his men are hanging out when they spot an Arab being brought into the prison. They later find out that he is a witness in a trial and will be here until the trial begins, which is in 10 or so days. Cesar goes to meet up with him, who tells him all this information, along with telling him to have the witness, Rahim, killed. Later in the yard, Cesar tells this to his other gang members and says that they will have to work quickly and it won't be easy if the guy gets transferred to solitary confinement. Cesar says that he does not want to compromise any of his own men in this job and says that they should find someone to do their dirty work for them. Malik is seen showering where Rahim tries to talk to him from the neighboring stall and propositions him to blow him off. Malik tells him to get lost. Later, one of Cesar's men approaches Malik and asks him to meet Cesar. Cesar runs a full-on gang in the prison and he tells Malik that he won't survive long without any protection. So he will kill this Rahim for them and get Cesar's gang's protection in return. Malik refuses, but Cesar tells him that now that he knows what Cesar is planning, he will either kill the guy or be killed himself. Upset, Malik later on in the night tries to talk to the warden, but Cesar's men have bribed the guards and arrive outside his cell to strangle him, warning him that he has no way out if he tries to snitch on them. Unwillingly, Malik is shown how to hide a razor in his mouth and practices in the bathroom, cutting himself badly in the process. He then gets a chance to talk to Rahim again in the showers and says he is interested in the hash Rahim promised him. One day at the workshop, he sees some men harassing another inmate and joins them, hoping to get solitary confinement and not have to do the job. But Cesar figures out what Malik is trying to do and has him beaten up. Malik is then shown practicing how he will get Rahim killed by one of Cesar's men and gets the moves down despite hating every second of it. Then one day he goes to meet Rahim in his cell and Rahim checks him for any weapons and such. Rahim offers him coffee and talks about leaving his books for Malik if he is interested in learning. He says that the goal is to get out of here a little smarter. Malik doesn't say much, and when he notices blood leaking from his mouth, he freaks out and attacks Rahim less subtly, but does succeed in killing him. He is shaking after killing the guy and then cleans the razor of his fingerprints and places it in the dead man's hands. He then leaves and goes to wash up, visibly shook with the incident. The following day, a man approaches Malik with a bag of clothes, telling him that he is now under Cesar's protection. Malik also signs up for the school in prison, willing to learn as he is illiterate, having stopped going to school when he was 11. He learns to read and, at night, is haunted by Rahim. This is how a year goes by. Malik starts to be a low-level servant to Cesar and his men. Even though he is under their protection, none of them trusts or accepts him, as he is not one of their own and does not even speak their language. Meanwhile, Malik continues his classes and becomes friends with a Muslim guy named Ryan. He secretly also learns and practices Corsican, the language of Cesar and his men. One day we see Cesar in his cell listening to the news where it is announced that Corsican prisoners will now be made to serve closer to home. Cesar meets up with his lawyer, who informs him that Cesar will not be moving anytime soon, as he and 3 of his other gang members screwed up really badly. But a lot of the other Corsicans in his gang will be let go. On the other hand, Malik's friend Riyad has been pardoned as he is sick and will be given a job by Issam Musab, the guy who helps rehabilitate sick inmates and get them jobs. Riyad tells them that he has testicular cancer, and Malik teases him about it. The next scene shows us Cesar sitting dismayed in his cell as a lot of Corsicans leave the prison. One day after that, Malik is cleaning up Cesar's room when Cesar attends a call on a hidden cell phone. Malik tells him he should have someone else hide it, and also reveals that he knows Corsican. Cesar is not too happy about this, even hitting Malik in the face. He then tells him that since no one else knows about Malik's understanding of Corsican, he will act as his eyes and ears in the prison. He also gets made a porter, the inmates who bring around the food trolleys, etc. And finally, gets him moved to a cell next to his own, which has its own TV and fridge. And so begins Malik's new job as a spy, and during this time he meets a guy who distributes hash in the prison. His name is Jordi. He also continues to see Rayab. One night, Cesar gets a call on his cell phone, which Malik passes along to him by tying it in a sock and throwing it over to Cesar's window. We don't get to know the specifics, but we hear that Cesar has gotten some bad news about someone having been killed. The next day, Cesar asks Malik how much time he has left, and Malik answers he has 3 more years to go. Cesar tells him to apply for leave days and tells him to ask his lawyer to apply for it. Cesar tells him that he will go out and do jobs for Cesar and will be paid for it, and Malik easily agrees. Both of them meet up with Malik's lawyer, who tells them that the whole process will take up to 5 to 6 months at the least. Cesar then pulls some strings and tells the guy that his lawyer will be calling him and that the guy should do as he says. In the meantime, Malik writes a letter to Riyad, who has gotten married and has a son. His job is in telemarketing and doesn't pay well, but he's making a life out there for himself. Malik asks him to come meet him and also asks Riyad if he can set him up with a job. One day, Riyad shows up at the prison with his infant son and tells him that Malik is his godfather. Riyad tells him that he will set him up with a guy who fixes cars for Imam Musab. Malik's application gets reviewed and he is allowed 12 hours outside. Jordi tells him about something he hid when they got busted and asks him to retrieve it, but Malik refuses, saying it is too risky. Malik gets his first leave day and meets up with Riyad, who gives him a ride. Malik then meets up with Cesar's lawyer, who tells him that he will be dropping something off for them and then coming back. He is also not supposed to ask any questions. Malik gets dropped off by them and is told to approach a house to deliver a briefcase. When he knocks on the door, the guy drags him inside at gunpoint. While the man in charge checks the briefcase, Malik is held. Later, when the guy leaves, Malik asks if he can leave, but is surprised when they swap the briefcase with a guy. So Malik carries the injured guy out and calls Cesar's lawyer, who immediately drives there and gets the guy. He then pays Malik a good amount of money and tells him that they might be working together again soon. Malik then goes to the place where Jordi told him the hash was hidden and retrieves the 25 kilos of the drug. He also wanders in the supermarket before meeting up with Riyad. The two of them come up with a plan to sell the hash and make money, splitting it 3 ways among Malik, Riyad, and Jordi. Once Malik returns back to the prison, Cesar asks him about it. Malik tells him what happened and tells him that he spent the rest of his time at the car workshop and met up with his friend. He reminds Malik that his leave days belong to Cesar, so he should stay in line. Life takes a good turn for Malik. He earns enough money to afford small luxuries that the prison will provide, such as purchasing a DVD player and hiring a prostitute, among other things. He also continues his studies and sits on his tests. One day, Cesar and Malik are in the yard. Cesar is not happy with how the Muslims are now in the majority and tells Malik to go over there and talk to them. Malik refuses, saying that he will be beaten up. He instead suggests that Cesar send a few hacks there and the Muslims will be eating out of his hand. Cesar is happy with this suggestion and talks to the warden about it. The warden arranges everything, and soon a man approaches Malik in order to talk to Cesar. Cesar meets up with Hassan, telling him that he has a problem in Marseille with a man named Brahim Latrache. He tells Hassan to deliver a message that Cesar to talk with him one-on-one. Meanwhile, Riyad gets captured and the hash is taken by a man called Latif. Malik finds out and in order to free his friend, calls in a favor with the Muslims and has his men kidnap the mother of a relative of Latif who is in the same prison. He has the guy Latif and let Riyad go and return the hash. On his way back to his cell, Cesar stops him and asks him to come and sit with him. He asks him what he and the gypsy guy have going on, and Malik tells him about their hash being supplied through a guy who comes with the frozen food. Cesar knows all of this, of course, but uses the opportunity to grab Malik and plunge a spoon into his eyes, hurting him. He reminds him that he told him to be a model prisoner so that he doesn't endanger his leave days. That night, Malik goes to bed nursing his eye and dreams about leaving the prison and driving away. On the road, he sees a couple of deer running in front of him. The next day, Cesar tells Malik that he will go to Marseille to meet Latrache. He will ask him his price for pulling out with the Italians. He tells him that he will be on a plane that leaves at 9 and one that flies back from Marseille at 3. Malik then prepares for his flight by faking his passport and having Riyad drop him off. Riyad is angry about Latif and the two of them argue because of how on edge they both are. It is Malik's first time on the plane and he is very fascinated by all the sights. He is picked up by Latrache's men at the airport and Latrache later joins them in the car. Latrache is bitter towards the Corsicans for the murder of Rayeb and holds Malik at gunpoint. When Malik spots a deer warning sign, he remembers his recent dream of deer running in the road. He tells his kidnappers that they are in danger of hitting wild animals and they suddenly strike a deer. Latrache is impressed by Malik, calling him a prophet and agreeing to conduct criminal business with him instead of Cesar, even though Malik admitted that he killed Rayeb. Cesar believes that there is a mole in his organization and decides to use Malik to assassinate Jackie Marcaggi, the Don of the Corsican Mafia, for secretly dealing with the Lingaris. But Malik and Riyad have their own plan for Marcaggi. They kill his bodyguards, kidnap him, and inform him that it was Cesar who ordered the hit before abandoning him in the city. Malik takes refuge at Riyad's house with his wife and young son. Riyad's cancer has returned. His decision to forego more chemotherapy leaves him just 6 months to live. He gets Malik to promise to take care of his family when he's gone. Upon Malik's return to the prison, he is placed in solitary for returning late, putting him out of reach of Cesar's retribution, while Marcaggi uses his influence to wipe out much of Cesar Luciani's faction. Once back in general population, Malik joins the Muslim faction in the yard. When a now powerless Cesar tries to approach him, two Muslims intercept and beat him. On the day of his release, Malik is met by Riyad's wife and son outside the prison. They walk off together, followed by a vehicle convoy carrying Malik's new associates, and the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.